So, you think you need a product information management system, do you? Yeah, probably not. Or at least not for the reasons you think you do. Today, I'm going to dig into the 10 biggest mistakes people make when implementing a PIM and the common misconceptions people have about what the PIM is going to do for them. Most importantly, I'll show you how to avoid these issues along the way. So, let's dive in. First, what is a PIM and why do people think they need one? A PIM, or Product Information Management System, is intended as a tool to help businesses store, clean, organize, and most importantly, coordinate on their product data. Herein lies the first problem. After helping implement countless different PIM systems over the last 15 years, I can tell you firsthand that most people think PIM stands for Product Information Do-It-All-For-Me Management System, and that they are not. The Nirvana is a system that accepts dirty data on one side and spits out beautifully clean, structured data on the other. Can they do this? Well, yes, in theory, but practically speaking, that's not really how it works. Here we come to point 1, which we'll get to in a moment. But if you're new here, or this is your second or more video, I have something called the virtual high five, which means if you are getting value from these videos and you have watched 2 or more, all I ask is that you hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps me out, as while I make these videos free to watch, it does take my time and energy to put them together. So if you have watched 2 or more videos, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're finding this content useful, and give me that high five. Now, the first big mistake people make when implementing a PIM is insufficient planning. It sounds like a no-brainer, but implementing a PIM is not something you can do on a whim. It's a significant project that requires strategic planning and organization. Seriously, don't underestimate the amount of prep work it takes to get this right. Without a well-defined plan, the implementation process can quickly become chaotic, leading to delays, increased costs, and decreased effectiveness in the final system. So how do you avoid this mistake? It all starts with the plan. This plan should include clear roles and responsibilities, as well as key milestones and timelines for the project. Remember, everyone involved in the implementation process should understand and agree with this plan. Let's look at an example together. Consider a mid-sized business planning to implement a PIM system. The first step they take is to form an implementation team consisting of key stakeholders from different departments. Who is in charge of product creation? Who is in charge of images? Who decides what the product structure looks like? And what data is needed for different parts of the organization? Whose job is it to fill blank pieces of missing data? Or whose job is it to clean up the data first if there's something wrong with it? These questions are just the tip of the iceberg. Once you have these all answered, now you can create a detailed project plan, outlining each stage of the implementation process, who is responsible for what, and the expected timelines for each stage. By doing this, you ensure that everyone is on the same page and that the project stays on track. The second most common mistake I see is lack of data standardization. A properly configured PIM can do a great job of keeping data clean and consistent once implemented, but most of them are not very good at cleaning the data on the way in the first time through. A PIM system relies on the quality of the data fed into it. If your data is inconsistent or inaccurate, you're not going to get the results you're hoping for. It's not going to magically clean up all your data, especially if you don't really know what clean data means to you and your organization in the first place. This lack of data standardization can lead to a host of issues, from inaccuracies and inconsistencies in your product data to inefficiencies in your operations later on. Avoiding this mistake takes a bit of upfront work, but trust me, it is worth it. Before implementing your PIM, conduct an audit of your existing product data. Clean up any inaccuracies and standardize the format of your data. Also, set guidelines for future data entry to maintain this standardization ongoing. Here's a quick example. Let's say you sell electronics. You might have product information stored in various places: spreadsheets, databases, even paper documents. Before implementing a PIM, consolidate all this data, remove any duplicates or inaccuracies, and standardize the format. How? Create a data dictionary of all the acronyms, industry terms, and product options, and get key stakeholders to agree on standardized versions of all these terms that your company will use indefinitely. Now you can set guidelines for future data entry, ensuring all product information is entered in the same format. This makes your PIM implementation smoother and more effective in the long run. Did you watch my video on e-commerce automation? If you did, then you already know about mistake number 3, inadequate training. It's easy to assume that once you have a PIM system in place, everyone will know how to use it, but this is rarely the case. A true PIM is not a magical machine that you press one button and get the desired result. It's much more like a modern day a rowboat, a vehicle that helps you get to your desired result more efficiently if everyone works together. Without proper training, your team may struggle to use the PIM system effectively, leading to inefficiencies and errors. The system may also face resistance from employees who are not comfortable with it, leading to lower adoption rates. So, how do you avoid this pitfall? The answer lies in comprehensive training. Investing in training will ensure that your team knows how to use the PIM system effectively. This should include not just the technical aspects, but also the strategic reasons behind using a PIM in your organization. Be sure to provide specific training to different departments on their exact requirements, but also be sure to explain how they contribute to the bigger picture. This will improve adoption rates and maximize the value you get from your PIM. For example, show the team that measures the product packaging where the data goes and how that contributes to accurate information being shared with customers. Show the photography team why it's so important to have consistent layups of fabric swatches for when they are compared side by side. Show your content team how and why consistent structure in their product descriptions is so important. The list goes on. Now, the fourth mistake is arguably one of the easiest to make: not considering your future needs. When choosing a PIM system, it's important to think about your business's future needs, not just the current ones. We all get so caught up in what's happening now that it's easy to forget about what will I need in the future. If you only focus on your current needs, you might end up with a system that can't scale with your business as it grows. This can lead to more costs and inefficiencies down the line. So how do you avoid this? The answer lies in foresight and choosing a scalable PIM. During the selection process, consider your growth plans and choose a PIM that can accommodate for future needs. Consider how your product line may change over time, and most importantly, make sure your data structures are created in a way that can accommodate these changes as they happen without the need for a heap of rework each time. The most common example I see of people getting this wrong is when it comes to product options. Designing a PIM around your product options today and not taking into account how these will change and how one set of options may affect multiple different product lines is a surefire way to back yourself into a corner. Mistake number 5, underestimating the resources needed. Implementing a PIM system is not a small task. It requires a significant amount of time, money, and personnel. The company you are buying your PIM from may make it sound like they are going to take care of it all for you. But keep in mind, you are the expert in your product, not them. No matter how good their intentions, when their job is done, you and your team are the ones who have to keep operating the system long after they are out of the picture. Do not forget that. If you underestimate the resources needed, you might face unexpected costs and delays. This could also lead to a rushed or incomplete implementation, reducing the effectiveness of your PIM. Avoiding this mistake requires realistic planning and adequate resource allocation. During the planning stage, make sure you consider all the resources you'll need for a successful implementation. Go back through the points from this video multiple times and make sure you take note and map out all the different scenarios you need to cover and the costs associated with each of these. This includes not just the cost of the PIM system itself, but the cost of data migration, training, and ongoing maintenance. Far too often, I see companies consider the cost of the PIM system itself, but forget to account for the cost of the data migration, the data enrichment, and the staff training. As a result, they go over budget and have to cut corners. To avoid this, make a comprehensive budget upfront that includes all the costs associated with the implementation, ensuring you have the necessary resources from the very start. The next mistake I see is failure to involve key stakeholders. A PIM system doesn't just affect one department. It touches every part of your business that deals with product information. If you don't involve key stakeholders from these departments in the implementation process, you might end up with a PIM system that doesn't meet everybody's needs. This could lead to lower adoption rates and reduced effectiveness. To avoid this, the answer is simple. Involve these stakeholders from the very beginning. This should include representatives from all departments that will use the PIM system. By involving them in the decision-making process, you can ensure that the PIM system meets everyone's needs and that everyone is on board with the new system. Let's consider an example together. An online retailer is implementing a new PIM system. Instead of making the decision in isolation, they form a cross-functional team to lead the project. This project includes representatives from marketing, sales, IT, and customer service. Each person brings a unique perspective and set of needs to the table, ensuring the selected PIM system works for everyone. Now, here's a few bonus points that I won't cover in detail, but you need to make sure to look out for. Number 7, neglecting post-implementation maintenance. Like any system, a PIM requires regular maintenance to stay effective, including onboarding new staff over time. Number 8, poor integration with existing systems. Your PIM doesn't exist in isolation. It needs to work with your other systems like your ERP, your CRM, your e-commerce platform, the list goes on. Be sure to map out these integrations and, most importantly, how compatible the data structure you design in your PIM will be with the data structures from these third-party systems. Number 9, and this is a big one, not evaluating vendors properly. When it comes to PIM systems, not all vendors are created equal. Never assume that a PIM does anything that you haven't seen it do specifically. This is particularly relevant when you are dealing with multiple vendors at once, as it can become really easy to get confused and forget which PIM has which features. They all start to morph into one big blur after a while, so make sure the one you select has every function you need. Finally, mistake number 10 is skipping the testing phase. Implementing a PIM system is a big project, and it's natural to want to start using it in your production environment sooner than later. But if you rush through the process and skip the testing phase, you might end up with issues that could have been avoided. I could go on for hours about these topics, so if you want more information on them, just drop a comment below or get in touch and I can give you a hand. So there you have it, the 10 biggest mistakes people make when deciding to implement a PIM. Now you can make an informed decision about if a PIM system is right for you or not. Remember, a PIM system can bring huge benefits to your business, but only if it's implemented correctly. So take the time to plan your implementation, involve your stakeholders, choose the right vendor, and test your system thoroughly. With these steps, you'll be well on your way to a successful PIM implementation.